a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. Hi everyone, welcome to the show. I'm so pleased to have with me Byron Spinks. He's an elder from Litton. So yes. Thanks for coming here.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Nancy. It's really good to be back here again.
It's nice to have you on. He's been on the show before, but this is the first time in person. And it's a 2-hour drive for him to come here from Litton, which I had to look that up and find out. Before we talk about why you're here, I want to talk about this shirt.
Yes.
Okay. I interviewed Chief James Harris from Seabird Island.
Yes.
I didn't know he was the chief at that time. But anyway, you know, we talk occasionally on Messenger, and then he messaged me saying he was ordering some shirts, showed me a picture and asked me if I would be interested in him ordering one for me. And I said, yes, absolutely.
Oh, perfect.
Absolutely. So they were ready yesterday. He brought it here this morning, so I'd be able to wear it on this interview.
Oh, perfect.
So
good.
Thank you, Chief. Now, get that out of the way because I just had to acknowledge it. See, it's a beautiful t-shirt, everybody, that I plan on wearing at the powwow when I go to it on Friday night. So, but that's not why you're here. You're here for a very specific reason, something you want to mention, right?
Yes, I wanted to talk about the new movement that's happening in BC, involving many nations. I think up to 10 or 11 nations are becoming interested in becoming involved in developing Indigenous protected and conserved areas within their traditional territories.
Right.
And it's I'm not quite sure if it's a program or, but it's an initiative that the federal government supports.
Oh, they do support it.
Yes, but it's a long process to get to be designated an IPCA in your area if you want to pursue it. So I've been on this journey for 2 years now, and talking about IPCAs in the Litton territory up in Fraser Canyon. And it's a large geographic area that I'm looking at in developing and designating this Indigenous protected and conserved area that will enable us as Indigenous people to have voice in development or anything that happens within our territory. We'll be part of the discussion at the initial process of beginnings of each project, or if it's a restoration program, or if it's tourism, or if it's logging or mining. We like to be at the table at the beginning, not and being proactive, not reactive.
Yes, right.
And that's what we're trying to promote. And as elder, the groups I'm working with in the Fraser Canyon area, we're trying to be very proactive and looking to the future. And we want to play a role in the future of our territory, so that's why we're involved. And our leadership is very busy doing their part in being chiefs and leaders like communities, and we're hoping that they would listen to us and be at the table when they're talking to the government or other industry partners that they're involved with. So basically, that's in a nutshell. We're looking at the whole spectrum of our giving for our land and our water. We're looking at protecting the wildlife, like grizzly bears, for example, spotted owls in the Spuzum area, and the traditional foods and medicines that we have to harvest in those areas also. So it's very broad perspective, and we've been talking about this for the last 2 years now. We're still in the community engagement process, and we're hoping to develop some momentum over the next few months to able to come to the table as one and sign a declaration or agreement amongst ourselves to say that we want to move forward on this initiative.
Yeah. So if you can get yourselves together first, right, and then with, if you haven't, like you said, the federal government is already in agreement with this, right? Just working on, what do you do, like one project at a time, or just looking at the overall picture?
We're looking at the overall picture. It's a large geographic area. We're looking at 1.3 million hectares of crown and provincial land. So naturally, the provincial government will be involved in the discussions, and we've been keeping them in touch, informed on the progress we're making, as well as all the nations in the province. So they're doing the same thing. We're hoping to develop a relationship with the Stalo Nation and the lower and upper Stepien people, the Shuapin people, and the Okanagan people. So we're surrounded by many great nations, and we want to keep that relationship positive with them, and we always have had a good relationship with them. But I think this is one initiative that everybody will jump on board on.
Yeah, for sure.
And because we're all aiming for the same thing, protecting our livelihood, our history, and our culture, and it means a lot for our future generations that would be coming.
Yeah, and I think it's like, as a white person looking at it, I think it's important because I'm not trying to be controversial, but we have not been doing such a great job. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's
I'm talking about the white people.
Yeah, there's I think there's a movement in shifting more of our settlers are becoming aware of the situation we're in as Indigenous people,
right.
And they're reaching out to become allies with us also. So I could see that shift changing with my discussions with some of the, for example, tourism operators. They would like to develop some positive relationship with us so that they can, I guess, protect and ensure that their business is going to be sustainable and be there. And with the partnership we want to develop with them is will be quite strong, and we'll support them. They'll support us.
It's a win-win then, right?
Yes, that's the way we look at it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like, if I'm looking at another country, like say somebody coming from another country, I would be very interested to learn about your culture. Yeah. Like when I go, because my son lives in China, so when I go, I'm very interested in their culture, you know, right? I know the damage that my ancestors did, and we hope that we got to stop, and then moving forward, like you said, you know, all work together. And
it's good to see other Indigenous nations from other countries. They're on the same boat as we are.
Sure.
And I've had meetings and discussions with international groups from Tanzania, and you know, they're doing the same thing we're doing. Yeah. And so we're going to meet up and meet probably in the springtime of 2024 to at a mini summit, international summit, that we can exchange ideas and support each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we'll be inviting them to BC. And I'm hoping to host them.
Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah. Oh, wow.
I'm hoping to host a group. We're looking at about 50 to 60 people at this time from the United States, all across Canada, Australia, Uganda, and just to name a few countries that have already been expressing interest. So it all stemmed out from the international forum we had in Ottawa last December, and we made a lot of contacts, and we kept in touch with each other. We all have the same goals. We want to get together, and it gives them an opportunity to come to Canada and to BC, and we can showcase our province and the way the movement that we're trying to develop in developing a good relationship with the government and industry.
Right. You know, because if you look about, like, I come from back east, I was born in New Brunswick, so I know a little bit about that little area. And then we grew up in Montreal and in Ontario. We have a beautiful, beautiful country. And if we could stop any of the further damage, right? You know, it's so much better for all of us.
Yes, it is. There's so much happening out on the land right now that with the climate change, the climate, the damage that occurs with the wildfires that we've had this past summer, and the previous summers, like in Litton, starting in 2021. You were still feeling the effects of that, and we still haven't got a grasp on how much restoration work we need to do to bring the land back up to its healthy state again.
For sure, yeah.
And bringing back our traditional foods and our medicines is very important to us, and so that's one of the reasons why we're really becoming involved in trying to promote this IPCA process.
Right. How do you find, like, when you talk about additional foods, like, I know that salmon is a very important fish to Indigenous people, right? And I watched this show called Life Below Zero, and it's usually like in Alaska, and they're talking about how the fewer fish there is all the time. And then you have these countries, like everywhere probably, where they just like this, just grabbing them all up
Yes,
to
and
feed
out in
them.
the ocean, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
It does have an impact on because of the migration routes of our salmon
Right.
and the cycle they have for every 4 years. And we're feeling the effects of the slide that happened up just north of Vilwood. This is the 4th year cycle.
Right.
So the salmon stocks are really low
Mm.
and our fishing times are impacted. Before we used to fish at the beginning of June, now we can only fish maybe in late July and
Right.
part of August.
Yeah. That's scary though,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yes. Mhm. And the way we process fish, it's important to have the dry heat. And with the salmon,
Right.
the dry salmon, and when you fish in August, it's the rainy season, starting the rainy season, and not ideal conditions for drying salmon.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I know there's something called the salmon run that takes place every year, and where people can go to the Fraser River, I think it is, right, and participate in that. Is that something that First Nations people are involved in?
Yes, we are at many levels, local and provincially. Like we have in September we have the pink salmon coming through.
Okay.
They're coming in great abundance, and they make their way to the Fraser Canyon up to Thompson, up to the shoe drop area for the spawn, and so it's we protect those as well as the coho salmon. We protect the coho salmon this time, and the early Chinook we're protecting also because of the impact of climate change. And the Nicola Valley, for example, Nicola River was really highly impacted with the atmospheric rains and rivers we had, and the flooding that happened during that year. The habitat is gone right now. It's completely different from 4 years ago.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It must be really different from when you were a child even to now, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So now, if you were talking to just anybody out there,
yeah,
what would you ask of them?
Well, I would ask them to be in touch with local indigenous groups, and we have many capacities being developed through the elders programs, youth programs, education systems. We have, of course, our leadership, our chief and councils are very active in trying to protect the land, and so if we can develop that positive relationship with at the local level, I think that's the beginning, and that's where it all starts, and from there it can blossom into bigger things with the provincial and federal governments. And so that's where we're at right at the grassroots level, and we're developing a pretty good loud voice right now from the elders' perspective, and because it's our responsibility to maintain and transfer the knowledge that we've been given to by our parents and grandparents.
Yeah, and you have such a rich culture, right?
Yeah.
This is something I'm learning that like I don't, like I don't have a culture in the same way that Indigenous people have.
Yes. And we have so many stories to share. That's where it all starts, from the storytelling. Storytelling is very important for us. We relate our experiences through storytelling, and we look to the future, and we tell stories about the future also.
Right, and we all need to look to the future, don't we? For sure. Well, I think I want to just say thank you very much for being here, and thank you for watching. And we all have the ability, if you're non-First Nations, to get to know people from the First Nation, find out about their culture, and you learn to respect people that way, when you find out what their culture is and where they're coming from. So take the time, as I said, and get to know. And I want to just thank Byron Spinks from Litton for being here, and thank you for watching the show. And I really hope you can continue to do so, and think about our environment. We're all responsible for what's happening for the future for our children, right? So take care, everybody. Thanks again, and peace out.
Thank you very much.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, Go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see.